support this bill. And with that, thank you, Mr. Frelinghuysen, Mr. Visclosky, members of your committee, subcommittee, and staff for a job well done. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from Indiana.
Chairman, I'd like to recognize the ranking member of the committee, Mr. Dix, for such time as he may consume.
Gentleman from Washington is recognized for such time as he may consume.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I would like to commend Chairman Frelinghuysen, who I've enjoyed working with both here and on the Defense Subcommittee, and Ranking Member Visclosky on their efforts to continue in the tradition of bipartisanship and cooperation. I know that all the members of the Energy and Water Subcommittee, in addition to the staff, have worked hard to bring this bill forward and get us where we are today. And I want to commend our chairman, Mr. Rogers, for again presenting us with an open rule which allows the members to have a chance to offer amendments. You know, in an era now when we don't have earmarks, it is very important that members have an opportunity to come here to the floor and offer an amendment. I'm not trying to encourage anybody, but it is a reality. Now, despite the decision made by the Republican leadership, unfortunately, to abandon the overall spending level contained in the Budget Control Act agreement reached last summer, I'm encouraged that this bill provides funding above last year's level. The reality, however, is that if we do not return to the overall levels we agreed to in August, proceeding with additional appropriation bills here in the House will be exceedingly difficult. Many programs in the Energy and Water bill are sufficiently funded. However, I do have concerns about the funding levels provided to certain accounts. A particular concern to me are deep cuts in the energy efficiency and renewable energy program, as well as steep reductions in the ARPA-E program. These programs are vital to continue our nation's innovation in the energy sector. I would also like to reiterate Mr. Visclosky's concern over the funding levels of the Army Corps of Engineers relative to FY12, particularly as the Corps struggles with its aging infrastructure. The bill provides the Corps with $188 million less than 2012. We must invest in our infrastructure by making preventive and proactive investments. And although this subcommittee mark does not fully fund the budget request for the cleanup at the Hanford nuclear site in Washington State, I understand that the funding level is sufficient for continued progress and a realistic work schedule for FY13. And I want to applaud the chairman and ranking member for continuing the funding for the Yucca Mountain nuclear waste storage facility. During the amendment process on this bill, I expect to join an effort led by Chairman Shimkus to increase funding in this account in order to underscore the strong bipartisan support in the House for moving ahead with the plan to open the nation's high-level waste storage facility. I believe, as many do in the House, that the administration's position to close the Yucca Mountain site runs counter to the letter and spirit of the Nuclear Waste Policy Act passed by the Congress. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With that, I yield back to the gentleman the remaining time I have to Mr. Visclosky.
I would reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from New Jersey is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I'm pleased to recognize a valuable and knowledgeable member of our subcommittee on Energy and Water, Mr. Womack from Arkansas, for 2 minutes.
Gentleman from Arkansas is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank the chairman of our committee and the ranking member, Mr. Visclosky, for their great leadership. And as has already been mentioned in the limited discussion we've had already, great kudos have been given to Rob and the staff team here that have done such a remarkable job. You know, I'm just a freshman on this committee, and this is my first trip through these appropriation processes, but I got to tell you that when I go back to my district, I brag on the competence of the staffs that work so hard to ensure that the intent of the Congress and of our committee is carried out. And so to Rob and his team, I can't thank them enough for the work that they've done. And we've also mentioned Chairman Rogers and the ranking member, Mr. Dix, and the full committee for the great leadership that they provide And hopefully tonight people can see that amidst all of our difficulties and all of our the divisions between the Congress, that people can understand that there are things that we can agree on. Mr. Chairman, I think that this energy and water bill reflects the priorities of our country. And there's no question that one of the great priorities facing our country today is the fiscal condition that we're in. And while we'd like to see funding levels at greater than what we're marking to tonight, clearly the fiscal condition of our country, money is an object, and it is something that we have to take into consideration. But I think, as I said, it reflects the priorities, conservative values that lead, guide, and direct our fiscal position, but it also addresses some very key national security issues with regard to the National Nuclear Security Administration, and has already been mentioned, it does put money into programs that drive energy, common sense, all of the above energy strategies for our nation. So with that, I would commend this bill to this Congress in hopes that we can run rapidly through it. I know there will be amendments. The open rule is a great process, and we're fully supportive of that. But again, I want to commend the chairman and the ranking member for the great leadership, their staffs, and encourage support for this bill. Look forward to the process with amendments. And with that, I yield back the balance of my time.
It's expired. Gentleman from New
I
Jersey.
reserve the balance of my
reserves.
time.
Gentleman from Indiana.
Chairman, I rise to recognize Ms. Matsui from California to engage in a colloquy with the chairman of the subcommittee and myself for
how much
such time as she may consume.
Gentlelady from California is recognized for such time as she may consume.
Mr. Chairman, I rise to engage in a colloquy with the distinguished chairman and ranking member of the Subcommittee on Energy and Water, Mr. Frelinghuysen and Mr. Veslosky, on the Army Corps of Engineers policy on vegetation on the levees.
Mr. Chairman, I'd be glad to engage in a colloquy with the gentlelady from California, Ms. Matsui.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I thank the gentleman from New Jersey and Indiana. Mr. Chairman, in many areas of the country, such as the communities I represent, federal flood control projects are essential. Indeed, Sacramento, California is the most at-risk city in the nation to potentially catastrophic flooding. I am a strong supporter of the work done by the Army Corps of Engineers to protect our communities and strengthen our levees. It is therefore with some reservation that I rise to address a matter where the Corps' good intentions could inadvertently have adverse consequences. In its laudable efforts to assure that flood control levees function as intended, the Corps has issued draft guidelines regarding the presence of vegetation on and adjacent to flood control levees that could, if implemented without close collaboration with state and local authorities and without flexibility to take into account site-specific conditions, result in the unwarranted and unacceptable loss of critical environmental resources, as well as the misapplication of limited federal and non-federal dollars. On May 18th, I introduced H.R. 5831, the Levee Vegetation Review Act, a bipartisan bill which is co-sponsored by 30 of my colleagues. The bill directs the Corps to review its current policy, taking into account a broader array of factors, including potential regional or watershed-based variances to the national policy where appropriate. It also provides flexibility to the Corps to exempt certain areas from the policy where deemed necessary by the Corps. Mr. Chairman and Mr. Ranking Member, I ask that you consider the objectives of our bill and the potential impacts of the Corps' current policy, not just on California, but on the nation, as you move to conference with the Senate on fiscal year 2013 Energy and Water Development Appropriations Bill. Thank you, and I yield to the gentleman from Indiana, Mr. Veslosky.
I thank the gentlelady from California for bringing this important matter to our attention. The committee has heard from a number of our colleagues on the Corps' vegetation on levees policy. I will commend the Corps for its continued efforts to improve its policies and thereby improve public safety for everyone. We also understand and appreciate that occasionally new policies have unintended consequences. As we move forward with this bill, we intend to have a full further discussion on this subject, and I commend again the gentlewoman from California for her leadership on this issue.
Mr. Chairman, I too commend the gentlewoman's efforts to bring this matter to our attention. She has described well the sometimes conflicting concerns regarding vegetation and levees. I look forward to continuing to work with her and our other colleagues interested in this issue to ensure that the Corps gives serious consideration to their concerns and perhaps conducts additional research if it is deemed advisable prior to finalizing its levee vegetation policy.
I thank the chairman and the subcommittee ranking member.
And I would reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from New Jersey is recognized.
I continue to reserve, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from Indiana.
It is my privilege to recognize the gentlewoman from California, Ms. Lofgren, for purposes of a colloquy.
The lady from California is recognized for
such time as she may consume.
such time as she may consume.
Thank you, Mr. Visclosky, for engaging in a colloquy. I would like to give special thanks to Mr. Visclosky and his staff, as well as Congressman Dix and his staff, for their tremendous support for fusion energy in this bill. And I would like to enter into a colloquy with the distinguished chairman of the Energy and Water Development Subcommittee. Mr. Chairman, since the need for a national ignition facility was first established in the 1990s, the project had a mandate of supporting nuclear weapons science expertise required for stewardship of our nation's stockpile and the development of fusion power. Basic science research has always been a central mission of NIF. In the 1997 facility use plan for NIF, the statement of mission projected that the uses of the facility would fall into 5 major areas: 1, ignition physics; 2, weapons physics; 3, weapons effects; 4, inertial fusion energy; and 5, basic science and technology. I want to affirm with you that the mission of NIF has not changed, and that inertial fusion energy and basic science research, as well as stockpile stewardship, will continue to be vigorously pursued at NIF.
Mr. Chairman, I want to thank the gentlewoman for her concern about sustaining the mission of science, fusion energy, research, and other activities at the National Ignition Facility. I know she's a strong advocate for science, and I commend her for her attention and support. While this facility's primary purpose is to support sustainment of our nuclear weapons stockpile, it was also envisioned to be a user facility. Basic science and fusion energy will always remain an important part of the NIF's mission, and I thank her for her advocacy and work on behalf of the NIF.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for that reassurance, and thank you, Mr. Visclosky.
Mr. Chairman, I would want to add my remarks along with the chairman to thank the gentlewoman for her vision of our energy future, for her doggedness, and for her commitment to basic scientific research in this country, as well as the issue of fusion. Too often people lose sight that we have to be consistent, we have to be persistent and dogged, and someday we are going to achieve success, and primarily because of the gentlelady from California. I appreciate her remarks very much. I would reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from New Jersey.
I continue to reserve, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from Indiana.
I would at this time recognize the gentleman from California, Mr. Thompson, for purposes of colloquy and for such time as he may consume.
Gentleman from California is recognized for such time as he may consume.
I thank the gentleman for yielding, and I rise for the purpose of entering into a colloquy tonight. I also want to thank the chairman and his staff, the ranking member and his staff for the help that they've provided on this very important issue. Mr. Speaker and members, the Bureau of Reclamation manages Lake Berryessa in my district. They manage it for the purposes of recreation and recreational access, and they ensure that the facilities are safe and accessible to local residents and visitors. As part of this, they award concessions to third-party bidders for resort operations. Since the Bureau of Reclamation began the most recent bidding process in 2007, their performance has been disappointing at best. The concession contract was finally awarded in January 2010, and the third-party contractor has not met the terms of that agreement.
The BOR is the responsible agency for concession bidding, and they conducted an inefficient process, provided lax oversight, and refused to take action in a timely manner despite constant requests from me and local government officials. Now BOR is entering into mediation, which means even more time to dispute the concessionaire's shortcomings and provides yet another second chance. Mr. Speaker and members, enough is enough. Reassurances and placations from the Board of Reclamation that they are fixing the problem are no longer enough. We need the matter resolved. The residents of Lake Berryessa and the tourists who visit the area deserve to have this situation fixed. Recreational access to the lake has been restricted, tourism is down, and the local economy has taken a hit. The summer season officially began last weekend, and there's no solution in sight to these problems. I expect the Bureau of Reclamation to take immediate action to right these wrongs and take steps to prevent a similar nightmare from happening in my district or any of your districts. I trust that the Chairman and the Ranking Member share my concerns of the mismanagement of Lake Berryessa by the Bureau of Reclamation and ask that you, Mr. Chairman, and the Ranking Member work with me to find a way to correct BOR's previous errors and amend the concession bidding process to ensure this doesn't happen again.
Mr. Chairman, I want to thank the gentleman, Mr. Thompson, for bringing this issue to our committee's attention. We take seriously our obligation of ensuring that Reclamation is efficiently using its appropriated funds to maximize the taxpayer return on investment, and I would be happy to work with the gentleman to continue congressional oversight of the actions at the Lake Berryessa specifically.
Thank you.
And, Mr. Chairman, I would also be happy to work with the gentleman from California to ensure that Reclamation is executing its mission in the best interest of the taxpayer. I expect the Bureau of Reclamation to take immediate actions to right these wrongs and to take steps to prevent a similar situation in the future. I do ask the gentleman here today with me, do you share my concerns of the mismanagement of the lake by the Bureau of Reclamation? Got the wrong page. And I am now done with my remarks, Mr. Thompson.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the Chairman and the Ranking Member for their commitment to work with me on this. It's a serious problem. It's hurting people in my district and the surrounding area. I want it stopped, and I don't want to see any of you have to suffer through this process again. Thank you, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Mr. Chairman, I would only add that I hope to avoid any further confusion in addressing this important issue, and I do appreciate the gentleman's very serious concern here. I would reserve my time.
Mr. Chairman, I'm very pleased to recognize the gentleman from Louisiana, Mr. Bustani, for 2 minutes for any remarks he may wish to give.
The gentleman from Louisiana is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I want to thank the Chairman of the Subcommittee and the Chairman of the Full Committee for working with me to try to rectify a problem with the Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund and the big-time shortfall we've got in dredging funds going forward. Our top 60 ports in the country are not being dredged to their authorized specifications. And this is hurting commerce. It's inhibiting our ability to export. It's creating all kinds of problems. It's a jobs bill if we can get these ports and waterways dredged adequately. It's at a crisis level. For instance, the lower Mississippi River, for every foot of draft we lose, it's $1 million per ship per day lost in economic activity. Now, the harbor maintenance tax generates $1.3 to $1.6 billion a year, but a little over half of it's being used for the appropriate purpose. The rest is being funneled off into other accounts. This is not fair to those who pay this tax, which in effect is a user fee. It was designed as a user fee. And so I hope that the Chairman of the Subcommittee and Full Committee will continue to work with me to correct this inequity. This is not right, and it's hurting American competitiveness. We can do better than this. This tax is a tax that was created as a user fee. It's an ad valorem tax on the owners of the goods, based on the value of the goods. this is supposed to be used for operations and maintenance dredging. And as the chairman of the Oversight Subcommittee on Ways and Means, where we have oversight over tax revenues, I have a problem with the misuse of these funds. It's hurting American competitiveness. We can do better, and I hope that the chairman of the subcommittee, chairman of the full committee will continue to work with me to solve this problem. We can solve it without adding a single dime to the deficit. It will help create jobs. We've got numerous studies to show the job impact, the commercial impact, the impact on trade. It is imperative that we move forward on things that we can fix. And it really is disappointing to me that we've not done better. I yield back. Thank you.
Thank you. Back from New Jersey Reserves. Gentleman from Indiana is recognized.
Mr. Chair, if I could ask how much time each side has, please, remaining in general debate.
Gentleman from Indiana has 10 minutes remaining. And the gentleman from New Jersey has 16 minutes remaining.
18 minutes?
16.
16. I would reserve at this time, Mr. Chair.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from New Jersey.
Mr. Chairman, I'm pleased to yield 3 minutes to the gentleman, Mr. Harris.
Gentleman from Maryland is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, I rise with my colleague from New Jersey to discuss the funding provided to the Department of Energy for unconventional fossil energy research and development. I first want to commend Mr. Frelinghuysen, the chairman of the subcommittee, for his strong support of the unconventional fossil energy research at the Department of Energy. As the committee report notes, the United States oil shale reserves are estimated to exceed 2 trillion barrels of oil, more than 5 times the proven oil reserves held by Saudi Arabia. However, additional research is necessary to enable economic and environmentally safe production from this incredibly plentiful domestic resource. In order to accelerate the safe and effective development of the nation's oil shale reserves, this legislation provides $25 million for oil shale technology research and development activities. As chairman of the Science, Space and Technology Subcommittee on Energy and Environment, I recently chaired a hearing to examine the challenges and opportunities associated with expanding development and use of unconventional oil and gas production technologies. The subcommittee received testimony from expert witnesses about the need for targeted government research to address specific issues associated with developing these unconventional oil resources. These research areas include, but are not limited to, oil shale resource characterization, minimization and reuse of processed water, the use of high-end computing applied to the physics and chemistry of oil shale production, modeling and simulation of oil shale exploration and production technologies, and surface and groundwater protection. It is my hope that the funding provided in this bill would address these and other key science and technology areas critical to enabling oil shale production and will be used to advance environmentally sound and efficient production of our resources rather than a regulatory agenda aimed at restricting such production or limiting access to oil shale reserves located on federal lands. I'd now like to yield to the gentleman from New Jersey.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank the gentleman from Maryland for yielding and for the additional and very valuable extra background information regarding his subcommittee's very important and critical work on shale oil. As the gentleman noted, our bill's all of the above energy strategy to address high gasoline prices includes $25 million for research to reduce barriers to the safe environmental and economic development of the United States' vast untapped oil shale resources. I strongly agree with the gentleman that this funding is intended for investments in technology and scientific research, not regulatory action, that can ultimately enable economic and environmentally responsible shale oil production. The gentleman has identified some very important specific research areas in his remarks, and we will continue to consider these and other lines of work as we look to further shape the program. I look forward, the committee look forward to continuing to discuss with our colleagues. I ask for an additional 30 seconds.
Maryland's recognized for additional 30 seconds.
Would you yield me?
Yes.
I look forward to our continual discussion with my colleague as we move forward in that process and thank him for his work on this very critical issue.
Reclaiming my time, I thank the gentleman and yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman
I
yields
reserve
back.
the balance of my time.
Gentleman from New Jersey reserves. Gentleman from Indiana.
And my understanding, Mr. Chairman, is we have one more speaker on this side, and you do not have any more speakers on your. At this time, I would like to yield 4 minutes to the gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Andrews.
The gentleman from New Jersey is recognized for 4 minutes.
I ask unanimous consent to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank my friend for yielding. I congratulate my colleague from New Jersey and you, Mr. Visclosky, for your very diligent and focused work on this bill. I know it was difficult. We thank you for your, Mr. Chairman, we thank these members for their leadership. Today, the people of the United States sent about $1 billion overseas to countries from whom we bought imported oil. This is $1 billion that could have been spent to employ American construction workers, to give more activities to American research scientists, to reward the investment of American entrepreneurs and create domestic energy and American jobs here in the United States. One of the most effective ways to create a nearly $200 billion annual stimulus program paid for entirely by private sector dollars and not by government would be to dramatically reduce the amount of oil we import into our country. This is an issue on which I think there is strong agreement. Now, we obviously part company on exactly how to do that, and I think this bill illustrates 3 of the ways that there is some disagreement. Let me begin by thanking the chairman and the ranking member for what I view as a very wise decision to make a funding investment in nuclear waste disposal at the Yucca Mountain facility. This is a very controversial issue, particularly in the other body. But I think that clean and well-managed nuclear energy is a key part of this country's economic future. Sadly, there has been a backpedaling from years of research and investment in the Yucca Mountain facility. I think that the geological evidence is compelling. I think that the national security arguments are compelling, that the best way for us to dispose of nuclear waste is at one site that is isolated from any population center and geologically insulated from any water table that would be nearby. I think that the Yucca Mountain site has been proven to be the right move. I think for unfortunate political considerations we've not invested in that, and I commend the chairman and the ranking member for reversing that decision to the extent possible in this bill and moving forward with further exploration of that option. One area of the bill I would agree with Mr. Visclosky is somewhat disappointing is its relatively meager investment in alternative renewable energy. Now, I do think, as the President has said, as our Speaker has said, that an all of the above energy independence policy is the right choice for our country. So we must understand that investing in wind or solar or geothermal or hydrogen is not meant to be completely in lieu of more traditional fuels. It's meant to be a supplement and a transition. I think that the transition here is insufficient. The possibility of powering our country through wind, the growing solar industry. Our state, New Jersey, is actually #2 in solar energy in the country, which is, I think, a tribute to our innovation given our relative climatological disadvantage relative to other states. There is promising research in hydrogen, other areas. I think that we are being, frankly, somewhat short-sighted and penny-wise and pound-foolish by not making a more robust investment in these areas of alternative energy in this bill. Which leads me to my third point, that I understand the justification, not by the subcommittee chairman, the ranking member, but by the budget resolution that was passed, that the justification for what I view as an unduly meager investment in alternative energy is because of the budget allocations adopted by the House several weeks ago. I would ask for another minute.
I would be happy to yield the gentleman another minute.
The gentleman from New Jersey is recognized for an additional minute.
I thank the chairman. That budget allocation was short of the agreement that the majority and minority and the House and Senate struck last year on August 1st. And we've adhered to that agreement in so many other ways. I think the right thing to do is what the other body is likely to do, and fund these appropriations bills at levels consistent with that August 1st agreement. I believe, Mr. Chairman, that we will and should be back in this chamber at some point this year enacting final legislation that is consistent with that August 1st agreement. That meager increase, that small increase in allocations, would, in my view, go a long way toward funding the wind and solar and hydrogen and other alternative energy that we should be seeking. But let's continue to try to work together as the authors of this bill has. Let's try to truly have an energy independence policy where instead of sending $1 billion a day to the Middle East, we're investing $1 billion a day of private sector money in manufacturing, innovation, and economic growth here in the United States. This bill, I think, makes an important step in that direction. I commend the authors, but look forward to even a better result later in the year when the bill comes back from the other body. I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from Indiana.
Remarks would note that we have no further requests for time. We would conclude by simply again thanking the chair, all of the subcommittee members and staff for their very good work that has brought us to this point, and would yield back my time.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from New Jersey.
Let me associate my remarks with the ranking. We thank all those that have come forward. We look forward to a vigorous couple of days ahead as we consider the rest of the energy water bill, and I thank the gentleman, all those who participated, and yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back. All time for general debate has expired. For what purposes, gentleman from New Jersey, seek recognition.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the committee do now rise.
The question is on the motion that the committee rise. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Accordingly, the committee rises.
Mr. Bass should be here any minutes. We're going to name you chairman for the vote.
Chairman of the Committee of the Whole House.
Mr. Speaker, the Committee of the Whole House and the State of the Union, having had under consideration H.R. 5325, directs me to report that it has come to no resolution thereon.
The Chair of the Committee of the Whole House on the State of the Union reports that the committee has had under consideration H.R. 5325 and has come to no resolution thereon.
I just got fired, so I'm not doing well. I mean, you like Donald Trump. You just fired me, man.
Pursuant to the House Resolution 667 and in Rule 18, the Chair declares the House and the Committee of the Whole House on the State of the Union for the further consideration of H.R. 5854. Will the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Rudahl, kindly resume the chair?
Is in the Committee of the Whole House and the State of the Union for further consideration of H.R. 5854, which the clerk will report by title.
A bill making appropriations for military construction, the Department of Veterans Affairs, and related agencies for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2013, and for other purposes.
When the Committee of the Whole rose earlier today, an amendment offered by the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Stearns, had been disposed of and the bill had been read through page 66, line 10. Pursuant to Clause 6 of Rule 18, proceedings will now resume on those amendments on which further proceedings were postponed in the following order. An amendment by Mr. Grimm of New York. Amendment number 8 by Mr. Franks of Arizona. The Chair will reduce to 2 minutes the time for any electronic vote after the first vote in this series. The unfinished business is on the request for a recorded vote on the amendment by the gentleman from New York, Mr. Grimm, on which further proceedings were postponed and on which the ayes prevailed by voice vote. The clerk will redesignate the amendment.
Amendment offered by Mr. Grimm of New York.
A recorded vote has been requested. Those in support of a request for a recorded vote will rise and be counted. A sufficient number having arisen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their vote by electronic device. This will be a 15-minute vote.
A couple of amendment votes now to the Veterans Spending Bill. $146 billion for veterans programs and military construction in fiscal 2013. The Associated Press writes that a close vote was expected on the amendment that the House is voting on now to strip a provision preventing the VA and the Pentagon from requiring contractors to sign project labor agreements to secure federal contracts. Those agreements require contractors to negotiate with union officials, recognize union wages, and generally abide by collective bargaining agreements. The Associated Press goes on to write that the outcome of the labor-related provision could influence the number of Democrats who would vote on the measure. Earlier today, a law enforcement official told the Associated Press that it's unlikely that the Justice Department will retry John Edwards. The official made the comment after his campaign finance fraud trial ended in a mistrial. The jury found the former presidential candidate not guilty on one count and was deadlocked on 5 others. Mr. Edwards spoke to reporters outside the courthouse in Greensboro, North Carolina, after the judge announced the mistrial.
Up close. Well, I wanted to say first, thank you for the jurors and their incredibly hard work and their diligence. They took their job very, very seriously, as we saw both during the trial, the attention they paid to the evidence during the trial, the presentations of the lawyers, and the fact that they've now spent almost 9 full days deliberating, trying to reach a fair and just result under the evidence and the law. And all I can say is thank goodness we live in a country that has the kind of system that we have. And I think those jurors were an exemplar for what juries are supposed to do in this country. They were very, very impressive. The second thing I want to say just a word about is responsibility. And this is about me. I want to make sure that everyone hears from me and from my voice that while I do not believe I did anything illegal or ever thought I was doing anything illegal, I did an awful, awful lot that was wrong. And there is no one else responsible for my sins. None of the people who came to court and testified are responsible. Nobody working for the government is responsible. I am responsible. And if I want to find the person who should be held accountable for my sins, honestly, I don't have to go any further than the mirror. It's me. It is me and me alone. Next thing I want to say a word about are the people that I love, because it's been an incredible experience for me to watch my parents. My dad just turned 80, my mom, who's 78, tromp up here from Robbins, North Carolina every day to be with me and to support me. And I love them so much, and they did such a wonderful job raising me and my brother Blake and my sister Kathy, who I also love dearly. I also want to say a word about my own children. Kate, who most all of you have seen, has been here every single day. She has been here no matter what, no matter how awful and painful a lot of the evidence was for her. Evidence about her dad, evidence about her mom, who she loves so, so dearly, but she never once flinched. She said, Dad, I love you. I'll be there for you no matter what. And I'm so proud to have had her with me through all this process. And then finally, Emma, who turned 14 recently, Emma Claire and Jack, who just turned 12, who I take care of every day. And I've not been able to see them quite as much, but I see them in the morning, I get their breakfast ready, get them off to school, and then we get home at night and we all eat supper together. And I love them both so dearly, and they're such an important part of every day of my life. And then finally, my precious Quinn. Who I love more than any of you could ever imagine. And I am so close to and so grateful for. So grateful for Quinn. I'm grateful for all my children, including my son Wade, who we lost years ago. But you know, this is the last thing I'm going to say. I don't think God's through with me. I really believe He thinks there's still some good things I can do. And whatever happens with this legal stuff going forward, what I'm hopeful about is all those kids that I've seen, you know, in the poorest parts of this country and in some of the poorest places in the world, that I can help them in whatever way I'm still capable of helping them. And I want to dedicate my life to being the best dad I can be and to helping those kids who I think deserve help and who I hope I can help. Thank you all very much.
A law enforcement official in Greensboro, North Carolina, where the trial took place, said that it's unlikely that the Justice Department will retry John Edwards after the mistrial. The National Journal writes that in the Veterans Military Construction Spending Bill, House appropriators think they've found a way to balance the checkbook, honor the government's commitment to 22 million veterans and families, and still boost spending to them next year. House members say shifting $24 billion from the military construction budget will funnel more money to the programs and services promised to veterans and lessen government infrastructure while maintaining the current overall spending levels. But with health care and other costs going up, Congress is attaching new restrictions on spending at the agency. One more amendment vote expected after this one, leading up to a vote on final passage of the Veterans Spending Bill. Today, a federal appeals court ruled unanimously that the Defense of Marriage Act, passed by Congress in 1996, discriminates against married same-sex couples by denying them the same federal benefits afforded to heterosexual couples. The New York Times writes that the decision will have no immediate effect because it anticipates an appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court, which is the only court that can overturn an act of Congress. House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi touched on that Defense of Marriage Act today during a briefing.
Good morning. Welcome back for our 2 weeks on, 1 week off. Last week, I sent a letter to Speaker Boehner asking him to bring middle-income tax cut bill to the floor. Thought it was really important for us to get the show on the road, to act now so that we can remove all doubt that there will be a middle-income tax cut, that no longer will middle-income taxpayers be held hostage to those making over $1 million a year, and that money raised by the expiration of the high-income tax cuts would be used to reduce the deficit. This is urgent because as we go toward the months ahead, we have another conversation brewing about the debt ceiling, and it's important for us to show that revenue will be on the table as we reduce the deficit. We have to deal with our economic issues, and we have to do it now. There are only 44, in case you're making your plans, there are only 44 legislative days left in this Congress. 6 legislative days until the next recess, today, tomorrow, a few days next week, and then we're off again. And what we have seen here is that Republicans have no job plans. The bills you see on the floor are not about jobs. Their only plan is more tax breaks for the wealthy, tax breaks for big oil and corporations that ship jobs overseas. By refusing to act now, the Republican majority is squandering our ability to help the middle class and to grow the economy. And they are squandering our ability to address the debt crisis. By threatening to hold the full faith and credit of the United States of America hostage, Republicans are risking another deep recession. Don't take it from me. Professors at the Wharton School of Business and many other array of economists have spoken out on this, but these 2 professors at Wharton School said, a debt ceiling standoff is an act of economic sabotage. End of quote. Leaders of businesses large and small told us that last year, when this debate was waging, orders stopped. Whether they're a big global company or a local manufacturer that ships overseas or within our country, orders stopped. Our credit rating was diminished, even though eventually we did lift the debt ceiling, but the mere discussion of it lowered confidence. The FedEx leadership has said growth in the first quarter was sluggish, along with a drop in consumer confidence in our ability to handle our debts in the wake of the debt ceiling debate. Again, because of the urgency of this challenge, I urge the Speaker to bring a middle-income tax cut to the floor of the House. Put on the table whatever you want to put on the table. Let's have that debate. Let the American people see what the decisions are and what the difference is. What they will see is the Republicans going to any length to protect the wealthiest people in America at the expense of the middle class. What they will see is Republicans giving tax breaks to the wealthiest people, to big oil, and people who ship jobs overseas at the expense of increasing our deficit. Again, let's try to work together to have a middle-income tax cut. That's something we all agree upon, that there should be a middle-income tax cut. So we want to remove all doubt and much uncertainty to grow the economy, bring in revenues, again, reduce the deficit. Speaking of economic growth, one of my favorite subjects is women and growth in America. And in that regard, yesterday, House Democrats had a hearing with a single message: pass the Paycheck Fairness Act. It's 2012. It's 2012, everybody. What is it we're talking about? Women getting paid less. Are you going home to your little girls each day and saying, work hard, study hard, be diligent, so that when you grow up you can make less than your brother? I don't think parents and fathers are instilling that in their daughters. And yet there seems to be a decision somewhere in some companies in parts of our economy that that's an okay thing to do. This legislation, which was introduced by Congresswoman DeLauro, she's been introducing it, I think, is it something like 17 years, in the late 90s. She began equal pay for equal work, ensuring that women earn what men earn for doing the same job. It passed the House during the last Congress, only to be blocked by the Senate Republicans. Well, women still earn 77 cents for every dollar men make. In this time of great economic challenge, that difference makes a big difference in the lives of families. We must send a powerful message to women nationwide. Your work is valued. By strengthening the economic security of America's women, we strengthen the economic security of America's families, and in doing so, we reignite the American dream. Many people recognize that there is much to be gained in terms of economic growth by unleashing women in the workplace in a more fair and equitable way. This Pay Equity Act does just that. I'm very proud of President Obama. His first bill he signed was Lilly Ledbetter. We had a number of bills that we could have sent him first, but Lilly Ledbetter, to end discrimination against women in the workplace. It goes partway down the road to do what we want, addressing the Supreme Court's decision. But now we need paycheck fairness to give teeth to the bill that passed in the early 60s, but surely needs work. Not only do I urge my colleagues to support this, I urge all of America's businesses to support it. Why not, if not? Have you made a decision to pay women less? Is that part of your business model? Is that your corporate game plan? If not, get on board. This is a very well-organized way for everyone to participate fairly and equally in the economic prosperity that we want to grow for our country. So I call upon companies to say, join us, and if not, why not? Any questions?
Madam Leader,
yes,
on the Defense of Marriage Act, the First Circuit Appeals Court in Boston this morning reportedly ruled and found the law unconstitutional. Two questions. Do you expect that the Supreme Court now will take up the constitutionality of the law, and if so, how confident are you that they will find the law unconstitutional?
Well, it's very good news for those who are fighting discrimination any place, including in the area of marriage equality. This is 3 for 3 for the Speaker and the Republicans in the House who are fighting for DOMA. They lost this decision at a lower court level, and now at the District Court of Appeals, and then they lost another one, Dragovich case, at the lower court level as well. I don't know if the Supreme Court, I have no idea how they set their agenda, but as you know, a 3-court District Court of Appeals decision establishes precedent, so this is a very important decision.
Do you want the Supreme Court to rule?
Well, if this can stand, we accept that. But let me just put this in perspective, because you remember, you were here, some of you don't, but I'll remind. In the 04, 05, and in recent time, when the Republicans had the majority, they put court stripping provisions into the laws that they passed and said that if your courts would not have the right of judicial review of those laws. You've heard me talk about this in relationship to the health care bill. But they particularly put it in bills that related to DOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act. And so they would say that the court did not have, they stripped the court of the ability to exercise judicial review. And at the time, some of them made statements that judicial review, which was established under Marbury versus Madison over 200 years ago, was wrongly decided. And that, and others of prominence in their party had said that there wasn't a clear picture as to whether the courts could make a constitutional judgment over what Congress passes. We believe in judicial review, we believe in the Constitution, and we believe that DOMA is not constitutional. So if it stands at the case at the District Court of Appeals, that is precedence. That's a very big deal decision. At the same time, Republicans in the House have spent hundreds, maybe over $700,000 already going down this path. There are many, many cases. This could cost a lot of money, and again, precedence has already been established in this case.
Madam Leader, the Supreme Court is getting ready to rule in the next month or so on the health care bill. You've expressed pretty high confidence. I think you said 6-3 that you think it's going to rule. But I'm just wondering if Democrats and the Democratic leadership have had any discussions or meetings to plan for any sort of contingency plan, given the possibility that the court could strike any provisions from the law or the whole law. I'm wondering if Democrats are having any meetings to discuss contingency plans.
6-3. That's it. 6-3.
Madam Leader. Let me go one step further on that. You have, in your speech to the Commonwealth Club, you said 6-3. Some of us before it went 6-3. Do you have a crystal ball, or what is your confidence? I mean, you wrote the bill, but why do you have this confidence?
Because I know the Constitution. This bill is ironclad. It is ironclad. Nobody was frivolous with the Constitution and the health of the American people in writing a bill. So that's where my confidence springs from, the merit of the bill and the nature of the Constitution. The makeup of the court, well, we'll see.
Madam Leader. The Republicans are soon going to be releasing documents that offer new details about the deal struck between President Obama and the pharmaceutical industry relating to the health care law. Do you have any comment on that deal? And was the House party to those discussions?
No, no. You asked two questions?
Right.
No.
Madam Leader.
Madam Leader. Yes, sir.
Just
go ahead.
You've shown some flexibility on the tax cuts by saying you'd go up to $1 million from the $250,000. I'm curious as to whether there's similar flexibility on the duration of those. In other words, if you come to lame duck and there's no resolution, would a 3-month or a 6-month or a 1-year extension be possible? Do you have also flexibility on the duration?
Well, I don't think 3 months or 6 months is any about flexibility. I think that's fairly stupid. Let me preface my remarks by saying next week we won't be. Oh, we will be here. I'll be observing my 25th anniversary in Congress, and I'm very proud of it. I've exploited it to the hilt, been honored all over the place, and mostly to focus it on re-electing a Democratic Congress. But I have decided, as I cross this threshold, to be economic in my use of words. And so I thought I'd just get right to the point. It's to do 3, 6, and what are we talking about? We're not talking about instilling confidence. We're not talking about growing the economy, strengthening the middle class. We're talking about kicking that old can down the road.
Madam Leader,
yes.
you talk about income disparity among
yes.
male and female
yes.
individuals, but a report came out that shows that women working for Senate Democrats make about $7,000 less than male staffers. Can I get your response and your thoughts?
You don't have to go to the Senate side for that. When I was Speaker, I was highest paid person on Capitol Hill, and the women took great joy in that. But I can't speak to what the Senate. Needless to say, it's another world.
Yeah. What is your read on the abortion bill in the House that Republicans are offering?
Well, I join with the American Congress of Gynecologists and Obstetricians in opposing it. There's a long list. Do I have it here? I don't know. I don't, but there's a long list of health care providers who oppose the legislation. It's ill, well, the maker of the motion has said he brought it to the floor for a purpose that was not exactly scientific, and so I think it should be treated that way. I will oppose it.
Do you think it will hurt Democrats if they oppose it?
No.
Madam Leader?
No, I mean, I think people will vote the way they vote.
In 2007, you made a trip to Syria. You saw Mr. Assad. Do you think more needs to be done by the international community against Syria right now? And do you obviously knew Mr. Assad. What's your comment about how he's acting now?
Well, I think that his behavior is outside the circle of civilized human behavior. I think he must be stopped. I think that it's a difficult challenge because there's so many different religions involved in the rest, and I think there was some caution used to say what comes next after Assad. It was unlike Libya, where the Arab League and NATO and the UN and everyone came together and said,
This is a request for recorded vote on amendment number 8, printed in the congressional record, offered by the gentleman from Arizona, Mr. Franks, upon which further proceedings were postponed, and on which the noes prevailed by voice vote. The clerk will redesignate the amendment.
Amendment number 8, printed in the congressional record, offered by Mr. Franks of Arizona.
A recorded vote has been requested. Those in support of a request for a recorded vote will rise and remain standing. A sufficient number having arisen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their vote.